Zuckerbergs in Nigeria. And do we have people that have brains in Nigeria? Absolutely. So I laugh at this is a really, countries like South Africa or other countries that are chasing away people that are adding value. I want to see, I thought Ghana must go was a mistake in Nigeria, because look at our school system. I think we need to create a system whereby, a society whereby it doesn't matter where you come from. It just bring your mind. We need, and even going back to our school system, we need to start thinking, how do we teach our kids to solve problems? Because in Nigeria, there are more problems than solutions. And what we need is actually youths, old people, everybody come together and solve a problem in our school system, in our healthcare system, in all these different spheres of life. And I'm telling you, with a willing government ready to put the investment on building this capacity, Nigeria is just going to transform. It's that simple. And we have templates in other countries of the world.
We can copy and paste.
That's it.
Okay, now, while we are copying and pasting, I've also discovered that now that you're talking about how to rejig the educational system, in some countries, children are being taught entrepreneurship from primary school level. In China, in Mexico, some countries in South America and all that. But we seem to be slumbering here. We are still teaching the children Jack and Jill went up the hill.
I think in Nigeria, entrepreneurs they're a dying breed, because when we look around us, we see all the people that are successful, they have nothing to do with entrepreneurship, and they have nothing to do, they've never created anything. Look at the Forbes list and look at China, for example. 90% of the people on that list, on their billionaires, they've created something, they've invented something.
Alibabas.
But in Nigeria, it's the opposite. Our billionaires are our politicians, or people that are inherited.
Ex-military.
And it's, so we need to, and really, it really takes, it talks about our propensity for risk in Nigeria. We need to start teaching our kids on how to take calculated risk. And that failure is not necessarily a bad
failure.
thing. I mean, look at, I'll cite an example, Donald Trump. This was a man at some point in his lifetime that declared bankruptcy, that I was broke, I made some bets, and I did this, and guess what? All the banks, I can't pay you. And the system in America created a buffer called bankruptcy. That the man made mistakes. And he has been able to, he's paid taxes all along, but guess what? We are going to support you, help you restructure your life, and da-da-da. And today, Donald Trump is hiring more than 20,000 people in America. So when we have entrepreneurs with bright ideas, what are we doing with them? This is the time, a point in our nation whereby we need to have people that are ready to support these entrepreneurs, because that's the future.
Now, I will come back to this entrepreneurship thing. Like I said in my intro, in the 60s and the 70s, entrepreneurship seemed to be, thriving and booming, like you said, in Nigeria. You are a scion of one of the families, the Okafa Farms owner, Ashamu Farms owner. Now, but you just gave us a profile now. We don't seem to have that anymore. It is rather that everybody now is drifting into politics with their briefcases, and that is the only enterprise on the table. So the youths are looking at that, and they are probably like, I think that's the way to go. Would that be a fair comment?
It will be. I mean, because I talk to any youth, and you ask them what they want to be when they grow up. Tell you a politician. And really, politicians in every other part of the world are accomplished gentlemen or gentlewomen before they join politics. So when they're joining politics, if all you know is how to is politicking from your youth, to what value can you add to the system? What we need in our politics in Nigeria, we need doctors, we need lawyers, we need engineers, we need people that can get their broadcasters, then give ideas to push this country forward. So at the end of the day, Nigeria is a project that must not fail. And for it not to fail, we need to start. It's not about how much power we have, and oil can be seen in some corners as a course. I mean, and we need to, how do we use, God has given us our God birthright as investment, the oils, the cocoa, the land mass, everything.
The gold,
we have.
the coal.
We need a strategic thinking. How do we sit down and add value to these things in such a way that it will impact everybody and Nigerian? Because the day every Nigerian says, I'm proud to be a Nigerian, regardless of if they are born
Ethnic,
into wealth,
yes,
or they are born into whatever, they know they have a fair share to make it in this country. Trust me, Nigeria will rise beyond what we are right now.
But that is where actually some people have also advanced a position, and that is the question of maybe there is no need for Nigeria. Maybe we should all revert to the regional setup and let individual regions, as it were, or blocks, find their own rhythm. Would you want to make a comment on that?
I think that's a much more complicated, and there are pros and cons. You can argue both sides, but this is what I do not agree with, that Nigeria should disintegrate. No, because, okay, I mean, even in the Yoruba race or even in the Hausa race, there are people that can, okay, so now we have Nigeria become 50 different countries. That we don't want. I think there's power in numbers. We just have to learn the stealth in using our numbers to our advantage. And I think that's what's important. And the government has a special role to play in all of this, is to make sure they synergize all these things and make sure it comes out in policies that helps Nigeria gain the competitive advantage that you mentioned earlier in this program. Whatever, I want to see a trader in Alaba, and that Nigeria has been able to fashion a way to help them policy-wise to make them a global player in selling parts. I want to see a palm kernel or farmer. And Nigeria has been able to find a way to connect them to the global market, that they are trading their products in Amsterdam instead of just trading within the little whatever, and somebody will come to see our cocoa being exported, and even us making chocolates instead of just selling it to some people that we don't even know what I mean, there was a research that was done recently that they said, I think, a lot of farmers that actually make cocoa and sell it to the global market, they've never tasted chocolate.
Oh, surely.
That is something that must. So, for us that we're exposed, for the government that is willing to reach the grassroots, we must be willing to make sure that the dividends of democracy touches these people.
Now, I'm going to bring it back to the fact that we don't seem to also. You have already defined it as a mistrust of the institutions, and that seems to also be the situation with the political map. Right now, there is a change, and suddenly the winning party is becoming the newest, largest party on the continent, as everybody is now drifting into that winning party. There's a bandwagon effect. This is the Nigerian thing. So, how much of quality are we seeing in this exchange? Today, Tony Ashamu at PDP, tomorrow he's at APC, the next day he's back at PDP. So how much of quality are we seeing in this?
So my personal opinion to the cross-carpeting is that I think the lack of solid ideological differences between the parties, and this is where I will agree with some people that says that our democracy is young. Being young does not mean that we cannot join the global community in best practices of democracy. We need to, and I think APC has a very clear chance to come out with ideologies that are wrapped around economic policies that touches lives, and people can say, I'm siding with APC because APC will give my children food in school, and APC will pay for my children's food. And PDP may say, you know what, I have a different agenda. And this is not time for PDP to go and rest. This is their think tanks to actually come together and use the next four years to regroup and say, you know what, now APC is defining their economic agenda. the ideologies. Now we need to make sure we counter them. In school, when there's debating society, it's not fun when you are the only one debating and everybody is now joining your cause. You want someone to actually whatever the opposite side. So the long and short of this is, cross-carpeting is not new. It's how we make it a big deal in Nigeria that is new. I believe that somebody that just goes out of his way to put a public statement out there that I'm cross-carpeting, there may be an ulterior motive. But
you cannot speak for them, but
even if you're a senator, your voting record should tell people where you stand. Are you for the people or against the people? Are you pro the policies that for prosperity for the common man, or are you? That's what we should start looking at, and it goes back to discussing issues rather than personal. Call it?
Yes. Okay. All right. We'll take a short break because Tony has opened up the Pandora box, and we have so many things to look at in that box. But we'll be back. Don't go anywhere. It's not going anywhere yet. We'll just take a short break and we'll continue with the conversation.
When we came up with the team, say Operation Zero Tolerance, we were saying zero tolerance to deaths on our roads. We were saying having zero crashes, on our roads.
We'd love to see you in Dashiki or Dandogo or Agbada.
The youth still have a very big chance of making a very big difference. That's why I started a lot of projects.
We have not been able to distinguish traditional medicine from traditional religion. So that one has...
Every edition is an arresting conversation with distinguished Nigerians from various strata of the society, bearing their minds on how we can realize the Nigeria of our dreams. Join us live on Closed Flow, Monday and Friday, every week here on NTA 2 Lagos Network Center. Closed Flow. The conversation is about you. Staying with us, we see Tony Ashamu in the house. Just before we went on that break, it says, well, he does not support or would not even begin to emerge in the disintegration of Nigeria. He believes that there is strength in number and that government at whatever level must begin to see how we can harness all our God-given talents, God-given, treasures.
Absolutely.
And to move Nigeria forward.
Correct.
Now, you're an IT expert. Mm-hmm. There is no denying the fact that even using the example of Facebook, Google, we cannot deny the humongous opportunities that IT, now presents to the world. We are sleeping here on this side of the divide, whereas the world is moving away. They're just smiling to the banks. Mm-hmm. You just said it now. A 9-year-old kid somewhere knowing the right instructions can actually develop a bomb, where we're not asking Nigerian children to start developing bombs. Sure. But that means you can also use the same facility. So why is our IT at this level?
I think information technology is called information technology for a reason. It's using technology to enhance information that's already available around us. We went back to, there's a reason why, at least when we went to in primary school and high school, there's what they call ADMAS, or what call, and they call in the other parts of the world, they call it calculus.
Okay, ADMAS, yes.
Okay. It's that problem-solving ability. Trust me, we have enough specimen in Nigeria, in Africa, more than any of them can have in Western countries or even in Asia. All we have around us is problem. Energy, just flip the switch and light, there's light, right? Even in the Bible, they said, let there be light. Just one word, and there was light. But in Nigeria, it's not that simple. Now right now, we need to start thinking of solving problems. And I believe Nigerians are the major people that can solve Nigerian problem, right? So when we look at this issue of, information technology, why are we so backward? It's our, look at every organization in Nigeria right now. They think of IT as a cost center, not actually as a forefront. I mean, these are times for example, companies like Goldman and Sachs, all they do is trade money. They don't have one bank. What they do is they're on the stock market looking at using data, just
the information
representation
available.
of data to make positions, and they're investing trillions of nairas or whatever. And that's how sophisticated they have become. And we are still here looking at newspaper. Okay, 7-Up is this is that. We need to have a new approach, and it goes back to one thing: leadership. The leadership set the pace and everybody else follows. If the leadership set the pace that Nigerians need to be more IT friendly, and it goes back to the same thing. We want to see the Alaba trader become a global player. You can't do that without IT. You can't do that without strategy. You can't do that without communications. You can't do that without PR. So there's a lot of things that comes together, and IT is just at the center of it. And we need to, it's just an approach, and we need to have a different approach to what is called information technology.
Now, you seem to boil everything down to this question of how the mind works. And if our educational system is beggarly, that means we are saying we really are not out of the woods yet. So how many years now for you, can you hazard a guess that things will start turning around in this country if we can get this done in the next 4 years? You think so?
I think that's to peg a country's fate to 4 years, I think is really, but I think we can make a very major stride.
You think it's ambitious?
And yes, 4 years is ambitious, and to judge any government to perform and deliver everything in 4 years is too ambitious. But this is what I would say. I think in some critical segment, energy is very important. You don't want to, I mean, there's a correlation between countries that are doing well. There's a very strong correlation between GDP,
yes,
and energy that you
supply,
generate.
yeah.
It's that simple. So is it important for us to get our energy up to 40,000 megawatts? Yes. So if this administration gets it from the menial 2,000, we get different numbers today, 2,000, 3,000, 1,800 to 20,000. Is that a major stride? Yes. And I'll take that as a pass mark, and even as an excellent mark. And now the next administration
comes and builds on that.
And build upon that, and the society makes sure that whoever takes over the mantle or continues the mantle are people that will continue the good program. That's one. Education. I tell you, it boils back to education. And one thing that makes me sad, I'm a product of the Nigerian
public school
system. I am a strong product. So having said that, the only difference is I was able to go abroad, and I always tell even some of my friends that I believe if I went to school in Nigeria, I would still be the same thing. I will be, because it's all in the mind. And what I gained from my parents and from the people that helped raise me is that curiosity. And that's the beginning of everything. Listen, I have one of my mentors, or Chief Afebawala, that said that he never stepped his foot in the school and he passed advanced level, O-level exam, that it was so good that he got scholarship all around. So there are books. And there's one word that says that somebody used to make a joke out there that if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. That should change. And I think changing that is the beginning of success for the Nigerian project. So at the end of the day, I want to see change in our power sector. That's critical. Education is critical. And because if people like us that have benefited from the free education that some people fought and died for in this country, just get the education and travel to Malaysia or wherever we travel to, and all of a sudden we don't want to come back home. That is a magnum loss to Nigeria. And imagine someone that has a master's degree in New York sweeping the floor or driving taxis. Those are people that can come to Nigeria and be part of this movement that is ongoing. I think we have a good thing going on in Nigeria right now. This is a movement. Nigerians are thirsty for change, and this is the time to begin major strides in different sectors: healthcare, education, power, just to name a few.
Okay, all right. We'll come to how we can lock down that change and this momentum that we are talking about. We have already some questions here for you, Blessing from Sulere says, how can you reorientate the youth of Nigeria from seeing the negative side of information communication ICT? Is there any program in place for this? Because most youth use this for fraud, e.g. Yahoo Yahoo. That's Blessing. You want to quickly take on Blessing, or you want me to take some more questions?
No, you could take more.
Okay, all right. Then Ishmael from VI says, as a young graduate, how can I equip myself to go into IT entrepreneurship? Let's take those two first so that we don't get swamped.
So I think Blessing from Surulere, right?
Yes.
So I'll use my personal experience as an example. When I was in my undergraduate studies in the States, in America, I actually started becoming a medical doctor because I have a sister that was in med school and she was the prized possession of my family.
Yes.
So I started as pre-med, but it got to a point whereby I was in a conversation with some couple of friends and there's this thing called Cisco. At the time, this was a long time ago, if you have a Cisco certification, it's called CCIE, you could earn $250,000. But this is a society, and I know people that are young that are doing this stuff. So I made it and it was said that you have to have a PhD in engineering to have this, and that was, at that point, it seemed impossible because whatever was saying is like, you guys are not in you don't have the break. It was that point in my life that I said, this certification, I will get it. So, and I'm going to now segue to the second question whereby, how you have you could study Yoruba in school, or you could be literature. Does not mean you cannot be an IT.
Person.
IT is a way. So to people that are using social media for fraud and all that stuff, I would say the application is what's different. It takes more to have a criminal mind than to just do the right thing. But this is what boils down to our governance. They have a major part to play. If there are opportunities out there and a guy that is very sharp knows that they can get jobs easily. So to the youth out there,
get support.
They will definitely want to apply. Who wants to be a criminal? Nobody. And I'll even say this. There's what they call counterterrorism in places like America and other parts of the world, or even what they call counter
like crime control, yes.
So what they do is they actually recruit arrested criminals. There are some kids